Welcome, my friends. Welcome to this broadcast. I'm very happy to be with you. I love to share information. I love you to get it. And I think that can be very profitable in terms of health and prevention and longer, healthier lives. And that's why we meet every week and we have this broadcast in Truth Be Told radio network. And I love you to listen to many of these shows that we have. We produce a show every week, and we have over 90 hours of very important conversations. We talk about cancer, we talk about degenerative diseases, we talk about inflammatory conditions, we talk a lot of things, a lot of subjects that could be very important for you. So it'll be very important for you to listen, to see what's up, what's around, all those hours of radio, to see what could be important for you, for your family, for your church, for your work, for people that are around you. Because sharing information can empower you to be healthier and live a better life. We talk about all these subjects all the time, and all you have to do is search on Spotify for Truth Be Told Radio Network. And there you have it. You will be in touch with us, you will be listening to all these shows. But also do not forget that we have all these very important sources of information in today's world. Our website, of course, BioCareHospital.com, but also you have Instagram, you have Twitter, and you have Facebook. Now, for this to really work, it's very important that you follow us, that you give us a like, that you connect with us. And let me tell you why. Because every day I see patients. I'm a doctor, I'm a practicing physician. I see patients every day. I listen to questions every day. And not only that, but I research the literature, I see what the other doctors talk about, what other doctors are finding in many places of the world. And medical literature is, it just comes to me, and I read it, and I see it. And then I go to my office, or I go to the hospital, and I see all these patients, or I'll get questions from people like you. Because you can send me a question anytime, any moment, through Facebook, through Twitter, through our website, and I'll be very happy to answer each and every question personally. But every time I find something that I feel could be very important for everyone, I try to talk about it. I try to share it with somebody, because I know there might be many people sharing the same type of a problem, sharing the same questions, having the same type of a doubt or a question. And if you follow me, if you follow BioCare Hospital, again, Twitter, Facebook, and all these platforms, you're going to get very frequent information about what's happening in the world in terms of health, disease, and very important, very dear, very close to my heart, prevention. You see, I'm a doctor, and I can see, I have a first row seat to the pain and suffering that disease brings. That's why one of my quests is to convince you that it is within your power, it is within your reach, it's in your own hands the possibility of bypass any of these very serious illnesses. And if worse comes to worse and we get something, wouldn't it be better to get it 10 years or 15 years later than today? Because if I tell you, you know what, you have chances of developing a cancer, well, I can really very seriously say, well, yeah, I could get a cancer. God knows what diseases I'm going to face in life. But if I could ask for something, could we wait 15 years? Because my children are at school, because I'm going to have a wedding in the family because I want to keep on taking care of my parents who are older people, and I'd like to be on their side and productive and making money to support them. So there are so many things that I'd like to do in the next 10, 15 years. So if worse comes to worse, I'm going to develop any disease. Could it be later? Yes, it can. That's the important message. And that's what we have to talk about, because there is convincing evidence. I'm not making this up, believe me. Every statement I'm going to give you, every statement you're going to listen to when I talk on all these shows is going to be supported by medical literature, by research work, by studies that prove that this is possible. It has taken a long time, but finally we're coming to terms with the fact that our lifestyle has a lot to do with the diseases that we're going to have. I don't know why it has taken so long, because if I told people that the way you deal with your car is going to be the quality of performance you're going to get through the years from that car, it wouldn't be very difficult to understand. If I told you that if you run your car on the countryside and bump it into stones and muddy roads and so forth, it's going to last less, you would understand it. If I told you that if I use a very cheap fuel, and nevertheless I still get it on the highway and press the gas all the way, it's not going to last as long. That's easy to understand. If I told you that if you keep doing all these speedy things on your car and burning the tires and so forth, a lot of the performance of your car is going to be lost sooner than later. That could not be difficult to understand. But when I tell people that a healthy lifestyle is going to make my life longer, and it's going to create a healthy lifespan, rather, a longer health span through my life, that is more difficult to understand. I have patients, I have people that tell me, come on, doctor, don't tell me that if I eat vegetables, I'm going to be healthier. The answer is simple, yes. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. That's one of the biggest truths that we have heard. Because today, for example, that's why I'd like you to stay in touch with me. That's why I want you to follow me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and so forth, because you're going to get all these news fresh. As soon as I get them, I like to share them. But I was reading this morning, for example, that a very important work has been done in relationship to what we eat and colorectal cancer. And this work has been published in nothing less than JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association. And they review a lot of studies, and they find the association between dietary fiber and colorectal cancer. So it's very simple. And what they find is the more fiber you eat, the less chances of developing colorectal cancer you have. And colorectal cancer, unfortunately, is a cancer that seems to attack early in life. You don't have to be 80. You can get it at 40, at 50. Those are the years where you're working the most. Those are the years when you're making all the plans for your retirement. Those are the years where you're achieving and building your equity. And then all of a sudden, one morning you wake up with a little bit of feeling or blood or whatever. You go to the doctor and you, oh God, I have to make some room for a doctor's visit. Oh, couldn't be worse timing, but still I have to do it because my family insists that I see the doctor. You go see the doctor says, let's do some testing. And After all those tests, he sits before you and he tells you, you know what? You have cancer. And then everything you were doing, everything, no matter what, is going to go to the back burner. Because you will no longer be able to control your life. From that minute on, it is the cancer that's going to control your life. Your life, your pain, your sleep, your suffering, and your finances. All that money you were saving to buy a boat, forget it. They're going to go for radiotherapy. All that money that you had to make that dream trip, forget it. That's going to go for surgery. And we can avoid it. Because once again, we have convincing evidence, scientific evidence, that if you do things right, you're going to be able to bypass everything that I'm talking about. So at the same time that you're putting together your life, your assets, your everything, you're planning your retirement, you're making every financial plan that you can think of, at the same time, we are going to be working on your health. Because you want that money for that trip. You want that money for that boat. You want your life to use them, to enjoy them with your family. You don't want your money to go to the doctors, pharmaceuticals, radiation, surgery, and so on. No, you want that for you. You deserve it. You earned it. And the best way to do it is by learning how to do it. And I can be your coach. Please follow me. It's on everyone's best interest. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, on emailing, but stay in touch because I'm going to be coaching you to what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking time to time as research and developing things come out, and we're going to be talking about them and review them and see how valid they are and whether they're worth to be put in motion or not. And the more you do it, the healthier you're going to be and the longer you're going to live. Stay with me. I'll be right back with you. We're right back. And I'm very happy that you're sticking to this show because I think we have a very important message. A very important message that you can profit from, that you can learn, and that you can hopefully be educated into a different way of thinking. What is that different way of thinking? What I want to convince you of is, number one, to show you that the medical literature, the best medical literature in the world, in America, in Europe, in the Far Eastern countries and so forth, everywhere medical research is well done and followed and documented, we find more and more absolutely good evidence, scientific evidence, that lifestyle changes can really make a big difference in how we function. Now, let's think a little bit about something that is called genetics. We're very much concerned about genetics because somehow we have been convinced that genes are imprinted in granite. In other words, if we have a gene that can do this or that, that's the disease we're going to have. That's the situation that we're going to have. But genes have one very important characteristic. And I want you to listen carefully. Genes have something that's called expression. What is expression? Expression means that the gene can actually transfer its information to your body and set it in action, or else the opposite. Be quiet, be silent, do nothing. Why? Because the environment is not good for it to express itself, and because probably there is another gene in the same category that's more powerful that can take over. That's the miracle of life. You don't have one gene for each and every characteristic of your body. You have two. One was a gift of your father, and the other one was the gift of your mother. And God has it in such a way that most of the time, the best qualities of each gene are the ones that are going to be expressed in our bodies. In other words, if we get a faulty gene but a very good one, the very good one that comes from the other progenitor could be the one that's going to take over, and we will not have any disease. Now, when we have weaker genes, then yes, they have more potential to be expressed. And you don't want them to express because they're going to produce disease, let's say diabetes. Okay, so we do not want that. So what can we do? Well, there's another thing that we call epigenetics. And epigenetics refers to the fact that environmental situations, biochemical conditions, can change the expression of that gene. In other words, if we have a gene that can produce a disease, but our environment is very friendly for our body, if our physical activity is great, sunlight, food, etc., if we have a very healthy lifestyle, that gene might not express its malignant content. Could not. Once again, miracles of life. Miracles because remember who created us. And He made us in perfection. But if we damage everything that's around us, if we bring tobacco and alcohol and overeat and do things we shouldn't and eat the bad foods, and we create inflammation, infections, tiredness, because we never stop, because we never relax, because we never go to sleep, because we trust coffee to stay in some level of activity, because we do not have the time to relax or to sleep, because we have deadlines, because we have a lot of financial problems, because of whatever. What's going to happen is that those genes are going to express themselves. And that might not be what we wanted. So it's not surprising that in many people, under a long, prolonged stress, they can develop a cancer. They can develop a malignancy. And I have seen it over and over. Once again, I'm a doctor. I see patients. I work at a hospital. I see people every day. And I have done this for the last 50 years. I graduated as an MD in 1968. So just think how many years I have been around in the hospital, in hospitals in places of the world. I have practiced in the US, in Canada, in Mexico. I have worked with researchers and medical people in Japan, in Thailand, in China, in Europe, in the Netherlands, in Germany, in Spain. So Medicine is not foreign to me. Medicine is my everyday activity. And I see these things that I'm talking about happening every day. And I always marvel at the wonderful things, the miracles of life that keep us alive and functioning well. So when you see all these things happening, sometimes you wonder, what are we missing? What is happening? And many times what's happening is that we do not have good enough information. We don't know exactly what to do. So what do we need? We need a coach. We need somebody that tells us, don't do this, watch it. This is too much of this. And you see it in your everyday life. For example, you go to a place and people tell me or tell you, oh, come on, just have a beer, just have a glass of scotch, just have this, it's going to relax you, it's going to be good for you. And then all of a sudden you realize that you already drank 3. Well, three drinks, particularly if distill alcohol like scotch, is too many. And what's wrong with spring water? So we have to do that. We have to start working on healthier choices every single part of the day. Because after all, life is making choices. We choose what to eat, we choose what movie to watch, we choose what source of news we're going to get, we choose our president, we choose our representatives, etc., etc. We choose every single part of our lives. And it is up to us to make good choices or the wrong choices. So I'd love you to follow us. If you follow us on Facebook, if you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, you're going to be able to ask your questions. You're going to be able to get first-hand information, fresh, because the minute I see it, the minute I read it, the minute I find something that I think is very important for you, I'm going to convey it to you. I'm going to send it to you. Small messages. And not only that, I'm going to give you a front row seat. Not only to get the information, but also to ask a question. Because the minute you read anything, feel free to comment, feel free to ask, feel free to everything. I promise you, I'm going to be answering you every single time personally.
Aquí sigue grabando, señor Lodita.
¿Qué es?
Es un avión muy ruidoso, ¿no?
Sí, pero sí suena muy fuerte.
Sí.
Ok.
Muy bien. Nos vamos en 3, 2.
And also do not forget that you can go to Spotify and search for Truth Be Told Radio Network. And you're going to find not only this broadcast, but you're going to have over 90 hours of information in relationship to health and prevention and chronic diseases. So, what I'm telling you is that beginning today, you have to think that you're not listening to this message because, for a coincidence. No, there's something that happened today that put you in touch with me, and you're listening to this message probably because it could be providential. It's the time to begin, it's the time to think, it's the time to, if you have not done your homework, regret and restart. Because there's always the chance of restarting. And I always tell people, because again, when I talk to patients and they say, Doctor, am I too far gone? Is it too late for me to start? Never it's too late, never too far gone. You will always benefit from healthy practices. Healthy practices will always give you something. You will always profit from them. So what we have to do is learn which they are. How do I set them in motion? How complex it is. Can I really do it at home? I live in a small apartment, doctor. Can I do this? I don't have money to buy salmon. Can I still have a healthy diet? And I'm not making this up. I'm telling you real people's opinions about health. I don't have the time, or I don't have the money to buy sneakers and a fancy thing to go and jog every day for 2 hours or make 5 miles every day. These are true questions of people, true objections of people of why they don't do it. And my answer is always just relax, take a deep breath, and I'm going to give you the first advice, and I'm conveying it to you right now. I was going to give you a very simple advice. You have no excuses because you have the time, you have the money, you have everything to do it. Have an apple a day. I'll be right back. I'm very happy today because I'm talking to you. And I'm very happy for each and every one of you that listens to this broadcast, because it comes from the bottom of my heart, and I love to talk about these things. That's why I'm inviting you to follow us, to join the club, to be together, to get information, first-hand information, to have a front row seat to listen to us, to ask questions, and to be with us. And also, don't forget that you can also tune with us on YouTube. And you can have testimonials. This is a different point of view of what I have already said. These are real people, real patients that have lived through the experience. And they are doing well. They're very happy with everything they did. Because there's always, I have to repeat it all the time, there's always something we're going to profit from every time we do a healthy thing. Every time we walk around the block, every time we get sunlight, every time we mow the lawn, every time we exercise a little bit, every time we vacuum the house, all those are physical activities. Physical activities that are going to give us the possibility of being healthier. I don't know if you think or you have ever thought that gyms in the beginning of the last century, in the 1900s, gyms were for sports people. They were for, you went there if you wanted to be a boxer or if you wanted to be a weightlifter or anything like that. Today, no. Today we have a lot of gyms because people go there every day, and many people have to go there every day. Why? Why didn't we have them before? Yet we were in better shape, in better physical shape, and why do we need them today? It's very simple, because it is really a paradox. We go to the gym and we hate to vacuum the house. Does that make sense? To me, it doesn't. Because when you get a broom and you sweep the sidewalk or you sweep your house, you're doing a full body exercise. You're going to sweat. You're going to get the energy. You're going to get the blood flow that you need in your body. And the more the blood flows, the better off your body is going to be. Remember, life is in the blood. And the only way to get the blood do its job is by making sure it moves around to every single cell, to every single corner of the body. Why? Because the blood carries oxygen for the energy of the cell. Because the blood carries nourishment for that cell to grow. And because the blood will carry back all the waste products and will keep us detoxified. But when we don't do that, when we get up, jump in a car, sit in the office, go to the movies and sit and watch a movie, then we go and sit and have dinner, and when we lay down, that blood hardly moved. So what we're doing is we're creating cells that are low in oxygen, low in energy, low in nourishment, and getting toxic because the blood is not flowing. Now, add to that I have already said, try to visualize what I'm saying. Add to that I'm putting in that blood bad fats. Have you seen what happens in the kitchen sink when you put vegetable oil through it? Well, that's what happens in your arteries. And that's going to impair the flow of blood. And then you put a lot of salt, which is going to pull water into the blood flow and dilate the blood vessels and give you high blood pressure. Now the reaction to high blood pressure is constriction of the blood vessels. They're going to close up. So the blood flow is going to be diminished. And then if you were accumulating toxins in your cells because the blood flow is very low, well, what about putting some tobacco and nicotine? And, well, since you're at it, what about a couple of drinks? Just some alcohol. And if you really want to have the party complete, recreational drugs. That's what we're doing to our bodies. We're not letting them function. We don't let them function well. And we start accumulating health problems. Where those health problems are going to take us? Well, they're going to take us in several directions. One of them would, of course, would be heart disease. Heart disease is the number one cause of death in the United States and the Western world. In Europe too. Then what we have? We can have cancer. But before you get to die because of these conditions, well, what about high blood pressure? That's going to give a lot of problems with your life and your function. What about diabetes? That's going to change your life forever. What about obesity? That's going to be actually at the bottom line of a lot of the health problems that we're talking about. Because of course, overweight is nothing else but the best, biggest, most obvious proof that you're not eating what you should be eating. That you are overeating and overeating the wrong type of foods. So all that is something that you have to put in perspective and say, I want to change all this. How do I do it? I'm going to read. I could show you papers and papers and papers, and you will not have the time to read them all. But that's my job. That's what I do. I see my patients, I read. I see more patients, I read about the problems they have. I have a question from you. Well, I go back and research because I want to make sure that the answer I give you is true. That's supported. That science is behind it. So I want to give you a good answer. An answer I can answer to. That if you tell me, where did you get this information from? I can tell you, well, it was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, University of Utah, Pharmacy School. And that is going to give you a better and more objective way to substantiate what you're hearing and what you want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to be your coach. So I want you to ask questions. I want you to make the comments. But I want you to get all this information every day, very frequently. Think of it, plan on it. And you don't have to wait for a weekly show. You can always send the question if you just follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you go to our webpage, you can ask the doctor. That's in my webpage. You just put doctor at biocarehospital.com. None of those questions, Instagram or Facebook or whatever, none of them imply any sort of payment. And there are no strings attached. You ask your question, I give you the answer. Why? Because I want you healthy. And you say, well, if you have healthier and healthier people, what are you going to do? There's a very cynical article that I read a few months ago that said, this is true, this is the actual title. Curing people might not be a good business. Because that's the way doctors have been trained to think. That I have to work seeing sick people. And I don't think that that's my job. I think my job is coaching you, is helping you to stay healthy. Because if I can convince you, this is going to have a domino effect. Because if you write the message, you might be able to convince your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, your church members, your co-workers, and gradually we are going to become a healthier nation. Because that's what we want. We want to have a nice party on 4th of July. We don't want to be in a hospital room watching the fireworks on TV and asking the nurse to give us a painkiller. No, we want to be there. We just want to be there. Now for anyone that really wants to do something intensive, because sometimes we have to do something, well, what about a getaway? Just forget about everything and make a BioCare getaway journey. Come to IBC, come to BioCare Hospital. We have programs where people can enjoy for a week, 2 weeks, a weekend, just working on your own health. We'll talk more about that. I'll be back with you. Here we're back, and this has been, from my personal perspective, a very interesting conversation. I have been trying to convey the message that between what we do in life and the health we enjoy in life, there is a connection. There's a direct connection. We cannot have our cake and eat it too. Forget about that. There's nothing such as a free lunch. All those things really have a meaning, and they come from popular wisdom. But popular wisdom, that after all, come from years, hundreds of years of experience. I can tell you, for example, that an apple a day keeps the doctor away is very important. Now, what do we know so far? What we know so far is that health is very important. It's a real treasure. When we're healthy, we have nothing to worry about. We're going to function well. We're going to enjoy life. We're making plans. We want to do this. We want to do the other. Because we can set goals. Because we're going to be there. You don't set a goal when you don't think you're going to be there. I mean, if you ask your grandmother, what are you planning to do for 2050? I remember the time when people asked me, what are you going to do on year 2000? I immediately started counting. Well, I'm going to be 50 something. Yes, it's good chances that I'm going to be there. I'm amazed that now it's 2021. But when you make your plans, it's because you think you're going to be there. And the best way to assure that you're going to be there is by being healthy. Now, what do we have right now in the basket? We have very simple things, inexpensive, everyday things. What? Okay, we know, and again, this is convincing scientific evidence that tells me that very few things that you add to your daily life can make a big difference. What are those? Probably one of the most important ones is fiber. We need fiber in our bodies. We need fiber in our gut. Make no mistake, without it, we're going to be sick all the time. We're going to be inflamed all the time. We're going to be bloated. We're going to be tired. So just say, okay, beginning today, I'm going to add fiber to my life. What is fiber? Well, fiber is very simple. Fruits and vegetables, particularly non-starchy vegetables. In other words, if you have a potato, you might not have as much fiber as if you have asparagus spears or spinach or chard. So we need all those veggies that we don't eat that often. Let's face it, broccoli, cauliflower. In other words, the non-starchy roots. But those vegetables are very rich in fiber. Whole grains. And in grains, there's one that to me is one of my favorites, which is barley. Because barley is a very old grain. There are researchers that say that if we could go back 10,000, 20,000 years, probably the only food we would recognize would be barley. Barley is very old. And this is a grain where the fiber is mixed with the grain. Not like with wheat or rice, that you can throw away the bran and keep the grain. You cannot do that with barley. It's mixed. So every time you eat barley, you eat very good amounts of very good quality bran and fiber. What else? When people tell me, oh, I take good care of myself, doctor. I have a bowl of cereal every morning. I said, it's in a box? Yes, no, you do not have sugar. You're only having sugar. Don't do that. You have to do your old-fashioned oatmeal. That's good for you. What about the steel cut oatmeal? All those things are very good. They're inexpensive, and you can really profit from good amounts of fiber. So make a plan of bringing a lot more fiber to your life. We're saying an apple a day keeps the doctor away. 3 apples a day have all the fiber you need. So what about having an apple with every meal as if it were a prescription? You can say, oh, I have to take 1 apple with every meal. So those are the first facts. Then, We need more calcium. That also we know. Where we get calcium from? Milk and dairy products. So good cheeses and all these things are very important. But get cheeses that come from milk. I mean, right now you read the labels and sometimes you panic. It looks like a chemistry class. You don't know what's in that thing, but you see that it has this and that and the, no, just get plain, good, old-fashioned Wisconsin cheese. I have been in Wisconsin and I see the cows and then I see the milk and I see the cheese coming out of this thing. And then you say, okay, that's what God wanted me to eat. Not something that comes from a factory. So you're starting to get the idea of what you can do. So fiber is important, that we know. That can make a big change in your life because fiber is anti-inflammatory. It is immune enhancer. It can do wonderful things for us. It's just that we don't know. We never paid too much attention to fiber until now, when we can see a lot of people with colonic problems, with immune problems, with autoimmunity, with asthma, with allergies, and all these things. They all are related somehow to fiber. Inflammatory diseases are related to the fiber that we eat. Why? Because fiber feeds the intestinal flora, and those bacteria in our gut produce a lot of products that keep you healthy. Believe me, all those guys that live within your tummy, you have to take very good care of them because they can do wonderful things for us. So, take care of them. Be really good to them because they're going to be very good to you. We were talking also about physical activity, and I don't want to leave that completely out because we don't take it seriously. But there was a study that I loved that was done in England where they did everything on the book. They checked oxygen consumption, calorie burning, everything. It was a fantastic study. And what they did is they took two groups. One of them had a coach. So they went to the gym, they did the exercises, they did everything in order to find out how many calories they could lose, how much, blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, the other group was set in a house. And they were given all the duties of a housekeeping. Vacuum cleaning, sweeping, doing the dishes, putting the clothes in its place, bringing things, taking the garbage out, etc. And you know what? The people that were doing homework did better than those ones that were going to the gym and had a professional coach. So, next time you do something, do it yourself. Move around. There was a very famous movie actor that I heard him once talking, and they said, "Why do you look so young? What is your secret?" And he said, one day I was thinking of the fact that when I was a kid, every time they told me, bring this or bring the other, I would jump out of my seat and run and bring whatever I was asked to. And then I noticed that as I grew older, first I stopped running. I just walked. And then I walked slowly. And then I started sending somebody else. Bring me this, bring me the other. And one morning I said, from today on, I'm going to do it myself and I'm going to run again. He says, I started regaining my strength, my stamina, my feeling well. It changed my life. Why? Because physical activity reduces inflammation. And that again is a fact. And I can show you medical reports that show that inflammatory markers go down when we do physical activity. And once again, it's not a matter of getting your sneakers and your suit and running. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is walk, move around. Next time you go to the mall, walk 3-4 times around it. and then do your shopping. That'll give you the chance of looking at all the windows. And by the time you did your exercise, now you know what exactly you want. And how much is this in this place and how much is in the other one. Because you were walking around. So it's just a matter of recovering that lifestyle. Now, every now and then, you need a helping hand. And that is BioCare Hospital. And we have more and more people, and I thank God for it, of people that say, doctor, I don't feel well, I'm bloated, I have these aches and pains, I don't think I'm doing well, I just don't want to do anything. And they come to the hospital for a weekend, and they come to the hospital for 10 days or for 2 weeks. And let me tell you, there's not one that doesn't leave with a big smile, looking better, feeling better, because they did a BioCare getaway. They took care of themselves and they took the time to do it. It's like getting on a cruise ship. Only that in this case, you're going to be working on your behalf, for your own body, for your own health. So, I want you to think of all these things because you can do it. You can say, I'm going to take 3 days. I'm going to go on Thanksgiving, 4 days. And I know that I'm going to have intestinal flora replacement, replenishing. I can have chelation therapy. I can have very good food. I could change the way I live. I want to be your coach. So I invite you to join me, to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on, because I want to be very close to you. I hope I get your questions and I get your comments. We'll see you next week.